Cooper got open and caught it. Touchdown, Indiana.
Going up the middle is Omar Cooper, and he'll walk into the end zone.
Complete at the 47. Surratt with no one to beat. Hello and welcome into Crimson Kickoff, live from the Bo McMillan Suites here at Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. We're bringing you everything you need to know about the Indiana football season. I'm Joe Cronin, Graham Nash, Thomas Crow, the usual crew, bringing you everything about this Hoosier squad. Man, they just continue to beat teams, just break down their will. Most recently, a 55-10 win over the Maryland Terrapins on Maryland's homecoming as well. Just demoralizing for the Terrapins. This team is rolling, though. They're 9-0 on the season. 9 Indiana is officially back. Only the fourth time in program history this has happened. Back-to-back seasons that Indiana wins 9 or more games. That is a first time in program history as well. And Graham, the college football playoff rankings came out. The initial one, Indiana is ranked 2, their highest ranking ever in the CFP poll. And it's much deserved.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Indiana's not just beating teams, they are demolishing teams. Indiana, 6-3 against the spread this season, so they have really just been bumping those points up. We talked about they're the only team to multiple times beat a conference opponent by 50+. It's been unbelievable, the performances that this team has put on, and this one against Maryland is really no different, Thomas.
Yeah, largest road win in the Kurt Signetti era, and they got a spark pretty much immediately, and Maryland could do nothing to put that flame out. Let's go to it. It is homecoming weekend here. The Hoosiers are traveling to the Terrapins. They're in the shell. Fernando Mendoza trying to extend his chances of winning the Heisman. Can't do it when you're thrown to the defense there. Intercepted by Jamar Glasker. Down the sidelines, Carter Smith gets him out of bounds. And Sean O'Hare puts 3 on the board early for the Terrapins.
As we've said, though, Thomas, Fernando Mendoza might be his most dangerous after throwing an INT. And this is why. He just reads that perfectly, waltzes into the end zone behind Pat Coogan, and Indiana quickly retakes that lead.
Yeah, chance for Maryland here to tie this game up at 10. Malik Washington down the field, throwing to the defense. That's Lewis Moore. He intercuts that route perfectly from his safety spot. Indiana gets the ball back, comes down, and a beautiful double move by Omar Cooper gives him about 7 yards of separation for the touchdown.
Omar Cooper really stepped up with Elijah Surratt out of the game. More on that in just a little bit. How about Malik Washington starting to get things going at the beginning of the second half, rolling out of the pocket, throws on the run, and Dejon Williams makes a great catch. Isaiah Jones slips, and he waltzes into the end zone to try to give Maryland a little bit more momentum, but Indiana would stomp that out pretty quickly. Kaelon Black says, no, thank you. I'm going to go right around the outside, and I am going to get into the end zone for 6 myself. Indiana back up 17.
Grant, they scored 3 touchdowns in just over 2 minutes. This game got blown open quick. There's Devin Boykin with the strip, the steal, and down the sideline. Indiana scores that one to go up 35, and it never got close, Graham.
No, it didn't. Indiana just put the hammer down, turned glitter into gold with Alberto Mendoza on the gridiron, finds Jonathan Brady on the near side, and he lunges for that pylon. Indiana goes on to win 55-10. And Joe, like you said, 9-0 for consecutive seasons.
There is juice flowing through this Indiana football program right now. You see the stats right there. Over 500 yards, again, for the Hoosiers. The 5th time they've reached that mark this season. 367 rush yards is the highest mark on the season so far. Thomas, this team is proving like they are one of the best in the country, if not number one. Obviously, AP and CFP have them right now at number 2. But where does this team separate themselves from the rest of the pack and, competing with that number 1 spot in Ohio State?
Yeah, right. That's the question. They're not going to see Ohio State till potentially the Big Ten title game. So how do you prove to the country that you're different than everybody else? It's the run game for me, guys. They're second in Power 4 in rushing yards, and they're the only team in the country, listen to this, with 2,000 yards passing and 2,000 yards rushing. They're getting it done in the air and on the ground.
It doesn't matter. And even both sides of the ball, this defense is dominant. 5 forced turnovers, the most mark on a single season. And yeah, the offensive linemen, credit to them. They're just serving up pancakes left and right on opponents' defensive lines. But Graham, with this Indiana team, I mean, where is the weakness?
It's hard to say, man. It really is. I think going into this past weekend, I would have confidently told you depth. I think that's probably still where the weakness lies if you have to pick something out. But after this past week with a slew of injuries, Indiana won by 45 on the road against Maryland after Fernando Mendoza threw an INT to begin the ball game. So, I think it still is the depth, if anything. But, man, they prove that they still have the ability to win and win in different ways, even when some guys are out.
Depth could be an interesting thing come this backstretch of the season, the back quarter, as you may, and especially with the aspirations they have for a Big Ten championship, for a deep college football playoff run, because they are comfortably in right now. On the injury update, there were 3 guys definitely notable. Drew Evans did not play against Maryland, is expected not to be playing this week against Penn State. Aiden Fisher did not play against Maryland when he was listed as probable heading into that game, maybe a precautionary thing. And then Elijah Surratt only played in the first couple drives and then was out for an undisclosed injury. But on Fisher being out, Isaiah Jones has stepped up in a huge way. That was his first career start. It's back-to-back weeks where he's been the main guy wearing the green dot, calling the plays. And he talked on Tuesday in the player availability about stepping up in that role. Let's hear what Isaiah Jones has to say.
Yeah, that's something that, we do all the time at practice. That's something I've been doing for the last few years. That's something that I'm fine having on my plate, stepping into that role and having to make the calls. Someone's got to do it, so just someone had to step up, and I think, it's me. Yeah, it always helps, especially when we're out there, maybe I'm at the will position, he's in the Mikey. We'll both get the calls from the sideline. So, it's never, trying to put it on one person's shoulders. I would try to help him out, at practice, fall camp, get the calls to my side of the field and try to, alleviate some of his pressure and responsibility. But it's just part of the job.
Isaiah Jones certainly with some big shoes to fill. This is a guy that has kind of rode the wave a little bit. He was at Indiana in the Tom Allen era, decided to stay when Curt Cignetti came into town, and the rest is history, Thomas. I mean, how impressive is it for him to step up, to have the green dot and fill in the shoes of an all Big Ten caliber guy named Fisher?
Yeah, I can't even explain how huge of a deal that is. He's become a vacuum on this defense. All the information going in and then coming out. It's such a hard role. I mean, think about the offense, right? How much the quarterback does pre-snap. It's not as much of that linebacker spot, but he's still calling plays. He's still helping his D-line see things. He's still telling the guys behind him if he sees something they need to know. Plugging a guy into that position can be tough. And, man, what kind of confidence does that give Bryant Haynes knowing that, hey, I now have 2 guys that I can trust go lead my defense?
I mean, Bryant Haynes is just a wizard this season. But Aiden Fisher did have a headset in the Maryland game as well. And Isaiah Jones did talk about how he was communicating, really just hyping him up a lot, getting motivated. And Jones with a great performance. Another injury, though, with Drew Evans, one of the starting guards for the Hoosiers, out. Expected to probably miss a few weeks. Graham Zen Mahalski had to fill in. I mean, how was his overall performance filling in the shoes? Because of an offensive line injury, that is where it gets a little dicey, especially when it's such a good group that the Hoosiers have.
Yeah, it's been a great core for IU. And so it was always going to be interesting when you plug in a new piece. Mahalski played 87% of the snaps, by far the most that he's played all season. And it was a little bit touch and go. It was a little bit iffy, not necessarily on pass protection. Mendoza only got sacked once, so can't ask for much more in that category. But the run game was where we really saw the O-line struggle. Pat Coogan did a pretty good job, but the pieces around him, the guards and the tackles, kind of struggled. That's why early on in the game, saw a lot of guys, Kalen Block and Roman Hemby, try to go up the gut and didn't have much success. It was when Shanahan realized, okay, we got to get these guys moving around the offensive line a little bit more. That's when we started to see these backs explode, have a lot of success. Shanahan brought 2 tight ends in a lot of the time. 2 tight end sets really helped with those running backs' ability to get around and have some blockers. That was the key. But on those pass protections, it was still a good performance from the O-line.
Yeah, it was only 1 sack, Graham, but what kind of role change does it have, and what kind of difficulties does it bring for Fernando Mendoza having a new guy at that left guard?
He's got to be vocal, right? He's got to really step up into that leadership position of I'm the quarterback. I've got to take command here and really lead this team now, especially after an INT on the first drive of the game. That can really be jarring. On the road, homecoming, Maryland was going to be a little bit more rowdy for this game than others maybe. But I think we saw exactly that. I think Fernando Mendoza did a really good job locking things down, settling them in. I'm sure Coogan played a role in that too. He's been a vocal leader, but it comes down to the quarterback in that case. really being vocal and being there and making sure everyone's doing the little things correctly.
I mean, on the topic of vocal leaders, this is a very veteran team. A lot of guys in their final year of eligibility. One of them in particular, you mentioned him, Pat Coogan, the center. He's been dominated, has plenty of great experience under his belt, and I did have the chance to catch up with him on Tuesday. Let's see what Pat Coogan has to say.
All right, player spotlight of the week, Indiana center Pat Coogan. Pat, how have you seen the team just grow every single week, 1-0, now to 9-0, and continue to kind of put your head down and get the work done?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, right? It's a formula of just building on each and every week, taking each and every week in stride. No matter the win, just getting better each and every time, no matter what the scoreboard was, right? Like no matter what the finishing product of Saturday is, there's always room to improve. And we've really taken that in stride, and we got to continue to do that because we got a lot of ball left here to play, and we got so much room to grow still. So we got to continue to take those steps and put our best foot forward.
You've played on some successful teams before. What is it about this Indiana squad that makes them so dominant, so successful through this point of the season?
I really think it's kind of what I just talked about. It's the refusal to be complacent, and it starts with our head man. Like it starts with how he preaches and how he treats each and every day, and that just bleeds into us and our preparation. Yeah, I mean, it's really what I just talked about, right? It's getting better each and every time, each and every day, week, no matter what the final score was on Saturday. It's taking the steps necessary to build on each and every week, so you're really not taking steps backwards throughout the season because no one wants to do that. So we just got to keep taking steps, right? Like there's no secret formula to success. You just got to put in the work, you got to put in the prep, and you got to refuse the complacency of life, of being successful, of college football. So that's what we got to continue to do.
Obviously, there's still a quarter season left to play and aspirations for probably much more. When you're having a season like this, when the complementary football, whether it's Fernando throwing for 300 yards or last week 350 on the ground, I mean, how much fun is it to be in this offense?
It's a ton of fun. I mean, we have so many playmakers across the board. People that shine each at different spots, right? Like you just said, it could be Elijah's day one day, but last Saturday it was Kalen's day, KB's day, and Rome's day, and Kobe's day. Like each person has so much, we have so much talent across the board. So it's fun to see guys, let loose and have a great day, because we're just out there doing our jobs as linemen to make sure those guys are successful because we got some really special athletes. So it's a ton of fun, man. And the best part about it is we get to do it all together.
Yeah.
So that's the best part.
When it gets to this point in the season, guys start to get bruised up a little bit here and there. I mean, how have you tried to use your voice knowing kind of what it takes to get to, the 13th game, the 15th game, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, that's college football, right? Like that's football in general. As you get later into the year, it's everybody across the country, right? You got to refuse to feel sorry for yourself, refuse that complacency of it's week 10, we've been here, we've done this, blah blah blah, whatever it may be. You got to refuse that. You got to dig deeper and really put your best foot forward each and every day. Continue to bring the juice, bring the energy, and you got to take care of your body, right? Like you got to sleep. But it's everywhere across the country. Yeah. So there's no complaining. There's no woe is me. So that's football. We chose this life, right? It's the best life. So we got to continue to just take care of our business.
How do you feel Zen came in and filled in for Drew this past week?
Yeah, I was happy for him. He's put in the work, and he continues to do so. So he's been great for us. We knew he was going to need to be counted on, and he knew that as well. So he's been a big part of our room, and he put in the prep and he put in the work. So I was proud of the way he went out there and performed for us and stepped up for us. It was huge for our offense.
Pat, thank you so much. Best of luck this weekend.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Through all the dominance that Indiana's offense has had this season, they are led by a quarterback who, when he talks to the media, it always looks like he's saying cheese for the camera. Fernando Mendoza, he's looked terrific. He's one of the Heisman favorites, Thomas. But the start against Maryland, it seems like that Maryland defense kind of hit him like a hurricane.
Yeah, it was to keep up with the weather terms. It was kind of, they threw him in a tornado of ways. The way they were putting guys on the line and then dropping them off. They were putting at times 7 different defenders on the line and then would drop 3 to 4 of them. And it wasn't kind of an easy outing for him. He struggled against it. They did it on his interception, and then they also did it on a play that a couple plays where he got sacked and a couple plays where he got tackled for loss.
No, the biggest thing, Graham, we mentioned in the highlight read, when Fernando throws a pick, he bounces back in a big way. But also he was helped by the fact that this rushing attack, like he said, you take away their pass offense, this team will run for 370 yards down their throat. They did that in a big way, but Fernando still was the distributor, or how he calls himself, the point guard of this offense.
Yeah, he still did a pretty good job. 14 completions on 21 attempts. Not great numbers, but interestingly, just not very high numbers. Like you said, really shifted to that run game. But what has interested me the most watching Fernando Mendoza throughout this season is how little he sometimes plays in the fourth quarter. Like, he gets pulled and Alberto Mendoza goes in, which I think is, there's two sides to that argument. Either A, you keep Fernando in, let him stay warm, let him figure some things out and really get connected with his guys, or you bring Alberto in and get him some more reps, right? There's a different side to it. We've seen Indiana go more with get Alberto reps, let Fernando rest. We've seen teams like Alabama and like Ohio State with other Heisman contending quarterbacks leave their guys in a little bit longer. That's what interests me. As we get further in the Heisman race, does this affect Fernando's ability to really be up there in that conversation?
A point to that race, and it was in the Maryland game, actually. Fernando Mendoza had 1 pass completion in the fourth quarter. It got him over the 200-yard mark, and he was subbed out immediately. And you saw him, they panned him on the broadcast, just sprinting down the sideline. Thomas, obviously it wasn't Heisman stats, but he still had a passing touchdown, still was a rushing touchdown. He's accounted for 29 on the season. His 25 passing touchdowns, he's just 5 away from breaking the single season record at IU that Curtis Rourke set just last year. I mean, the wave of Indiana football being dominant, it's here, it's now. And it's led by a guy, Fernando Mendoza, who's projected so high in draft boards as well.
Yeah, Coach Signetti gave Fernando Mendoza the little cookie there and then pulled him out. Got him to 200 yards. But it is something, I agree with you, Graham. I think it's a huge deal in terms of the Heisman. We had conversations earlier this week. How much does a Heisman trophy matter to recruiting?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters as much right now to Kurt Signetti as it might to other coaches. I think what he cares about in terms of recruiting is, can you go get a ring? I think that matters more to him.
Absolutely. I mean, winning will get recruits more so than an individual accolade. And the thing about Fernando is he's so humble about it. He's been asked before, and all he's focused about is his team. I mean, how important is that it's, not a very big ego, and he's leading the second best team in the country, Graham.
Oh, it's huge. Every time this guy comes to media availability, he's just like got a bag of pretzels and he's just like walking over to the cameras like no big deal, like it's another, Thursday night. It's unbelievable. He just led one of the best offenses down the field time and time again, and he acts like, he was just hanging out with his guys. It's an unbelievable mindset, and I think that's kind of why we haven't seen him stay in the game a lot in terms of this Heisman race that we're talking about, because he and Signetti, I think it really goes back to Signetti, have instilled this mindset of, okay, we want to do what's best for the team, whether that be getting Alberto reps, whether that means getting Fernando rest. It's got to be one or the other. They're so unselfish, and it's just the kid's mindset is unbelievable.
Now to segue, the big offensive boom against Maryland was obviously the rushing attack. 367 yards, 4 touchdowns, Thomas. It was the 3-headed monster. Kalen Black, 110 yards. Roman Hemby and Kobe Martin had over 80. Even Alberto Mendoza had the long with his 53-yard rush. This team is able to beat you at multiple ways, and they just broke down the will and demoralized that Maryland front seven.
Yeah, they figured out how to get after Maryland. I was impressed watching some of the tape, how clear it was. Bryant Haynes had a game plan going in, and he saw things on the Maryland defensive side that he knew he could expose. Look at the touchdown, Fernando Mendoza's touchdown. I talk about it a lot in film room, so I won't hit on it much, but it's clear that there was something on film that was exposed on that play. When you have the guys in the backfield like Indiana does, you have Roman Hemby, who knows the other side. You have Kalen Black, who has been 2 years into this system now, and then Kobe Martin, who played later in the game. You have a lot of confidence in those guys. They had the most rush yards all season in that game. And guys, like I said, they're second in the nation, second in the Power Four conferences in rushing. it's dominant and opens up the pass game.
And the interesting thing about this team is they are taking out their starters, like you mentioned, once the fourth quarter hits, because they're up 30. And I feel like that's the smart move. Don't risk any injuries. You already saw, we mentioned a couple of the guys that got dinged up. They had 131 rush yards in the fourth quarter. So it's not like they're trying to run up the score. They're simply just trying to run out the game, but it's working still, and they're putting up more points, Graham.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what Kobe Martin does in the fourth quarter is unbelievable. He's an animal. I mean, he, like we're talking about, didn't really see much game time for the first 3 quarters and still was graded the 8th best running back in FBS last weekend with, like, that's unbelievable. Yeah. That is unbelievable. You have to have 10 plus carries to be considered for this grade, and he was 8th. So I think that just tells you everything you need to know about what this team has done. They've got so many tools. Kind of comes back to depth, which we've talked about might be a problem, might not be when you got a running back like Martin.
SEC fans can't be a fan of Kobe Martin. There's no way. all the SEC people talk about is Indiana runs the score. Well, when Kobe Martin, when he's a dog and he's running through people, it's not Indiana's fault that they're running. They're not trying to run the score up. It's just the SEC teams don't have the run game, so they have to punt.
It's a Big Ten blizzard going down to the southern
there
part
we
of the
go.
States.
The interesting thing about this team is they look like they are well on their way to breaking some major records that have, kind of held for quite a long time, especially on the rushing end. In 2014, that was the Tevin Coleman year, actually, 3,163 total rush yards across the board for the team. They were averaging 263 this year, averaging 245. I mean, that's on pace with a Big Ten championship, with a college football playoff game, that the rushing record is set, Graham. And I mean, it just goes to show maybe the culture shift that they can have big time performances like that. Because that 2014 team was 4-8, 5-7 with Tevin Coleman. This is a 9-0 undefeated team that looks like they're well on their way to 12-0 in a Big Ten dance with Ohio State.
Yeah, exactly. And, there are a couple different things that my mind goes to immediately when you bring up some of those numbers. Obviously some dogs in this running back room. These guys are unbelievable. I mean, again, I'm going to bring it back to the Maryland game. 280 yards for that trio, Hemby, Black, and Kobe Martin. 190 of them were gained after contact. They just have an unbelievable ability to keep running, keep pushing through. But the other thing that I think about, the other 2 things, one, the offensive line, how good those guys have been to give those running back the space and blockers they need, but also just the ability of Shanahan, offensive coordinator, to scheme, to adjust. When a team like Maryland does a really good job on the interior pass and run rushing, he finds a way to get these guys around the outside, bring in more tight ends, get them space. It's unbelievable what he's done.
We're going to keep it on coordinators, but switch opposite side of the field, the defense. It's arguably better than what the offense is doing, or more impressive. They held Maryland to just 37 rush yards, 5 forced turnovers, which is the most on a mark this season. And they're one of 3 FBS teams to not give up more than 24 points. They've actually have not given up more than 20. They're one of 2 teams to do that. But it's Ohio State, Indiana, and Auburn, who just fired Hugh Freeze. That very interesting that stat's thrown in there. But, I mean, Thomas, this defense is just phenomenal.
Yeah, they're the number 1 scoring offense. And now let's talk about the number 3 scoring defense. Only team in the nation to be top 5 in these. Guys, I want to take you through something that I've been rolling through all season. 9 games Indiana has played against other quarterbacks. Now, if one quarterback transferred to every single team that Indiana played over those 9 games, they would have passed for 66% completion percentage. That'd be 40th in the nation. 1,450 yards. That'd be 90th in the nation. 4 touchdowns, that'd be tied for 137th, and 13 interceptions. That would be the worst in the country. Basically, what I'm getting at is Indiana terrorizes other quarterbacks, and if that was a quarterback, he would no longer have a job.
And this was the first time all season that the Hoosiers didn't have a sack, but they kind of, flipped it and just forced as many turnovers as possible and just, ripped the ball away at times from Maryland. And then that Lou Moore pick, Graham, that was so impressive. The ball tracking and just head tapping them right at the apex.
Yeah.
Thrown to the defense.
Thrown to the defense. That's right. The secondary for Indiana was unbelievable in this game. Maryland obviously had a very mobile quarterback in Malik Washington. He did a good job scrambling, escaping. But something else that Maryland clearly was making an effort to do was take the linebackers out of the game. Obviously, a lot of talk about this linebacker room and how good they've been, but that puts a lot of stress, a lot of strain on the secondary. And how did they respond? I mean, just talk about that Lou Moore pick. That is the most unbelievable catch that we've seen from this defense all season long. And Jamari Sharp had a great game. I think that's someone else that we can talk about.
There it is again.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable snag, just over the shoulder. There are so many different guys. I mean, Jamari Sharp, he was the most targeted DB, not named Devin Boykin, who we haven't even touched on. Devin Boykin was unbelievable. So, you need the secondary to pick up in games where the offense does a good job taking the linebackers out. That's exactly what Indiana did.
And we can hit on the secondary more, but I do want to just give a shout out to Malik Washington. Guys, his numbers weren't great, but man, he was doing what he could. He was creative. He had a ridiculous play on that long touchdown, rolling out, flipping it, getting Isaiah Jones to bite. Guys, this is a true freshman who got put into a really, really tough spot against an awesome Indiana defense. So this is a guy that come next year on Saturdays, we're going to be watching for a long time.
I think the next 2 years, Maryland might have a great guy in Washington. Thomas, let's get to the nitty gritty. What's happening in the film room?
Yeah, film room, we're going to talk about Fernando Mendoza. Not some of his better plays necessarily, but, Indiana got the win anyways, so might as well break it down. Let's go to film room. All right, guys, in the film room, we're doing Indiana and Maryland plays from this past weekend. Let's jump into the Fernando Mendoza interception, see kind of how we got there. So we start with Omar Cooper going in motion to tell Fernando, hey, they're going to be in zone, right? They have 7 guys at this line of scrimmage, and actually putting a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage and dropping some back in the first quarter kind of freaked Fernando out a little bit. You could have told. So 7 guys, 3 of them are going to drop. It's going to be kind of a 4 on the line, 4 linebackers, and then cover 3 with the safeties in the corners. So where Fernando's trying to go is to Elijah Surratt down here. They love throwing to Surratt outside of the numbers on 3rd down, and typically it works, but where it normally comes from is hash to numbers, not opposite hash to opposite numbers. That's where the issue is. And Fernando, he telegraphs this entire pass. He's looking at Surratt the entire time, and that gives Glasgow, the corner, an easy read at it. Hey, I can break on this ball. Worst case scenario, I tap it down. Well, he's able to undercut the route because Surratt goes about 2 yards too far on this 3rd down. And then Indiana's just lucky that it wasn't a pick 6. Let's go ahead and watch it. So look at him. He's looking at it the whole time. Glasgow, just enough contact on the break for it to not be a penalty. Just enough to discourage the receiver, but for it to not be a penalty. Great work by Carter Smith and Omar getting back into the play. But watch Fernando's eyes here. Staring the whole time. And look at Glasgow. He knew from the second Fernando pulled the ball back that he was going to be able to pick that ball off. And like I said, just enough on the break where it's not a penalty. And then you just have to give credit to Omar and Carter Smith for getting back into this play, only holding Maryland to 3 points. Now let's do another play where I think the issue is Fernando. Look at this. One tech on the right side of the center, just kind of lined up. And then you have the tech out here on the outside of Carter Smith. So huge gap there, right? They're not just going to leave that gap open. Fernando doesn't realize it, though. There are 2 guys here. Look, this guy's already got his leg kind of out. He's coming, but he doesn't relay that to his O-line. So 4 guys over here. We're going to have 4 blockers, including Mikulski, the backup, replacing Drew Evans, who's out with injury, going to this side. 2 guys are going to drop, so we're only going to have 2 defenders against 4 blockers. Carter Smith doesn't have a chance, right? 3 guys coming in against 1. Fernando sets the play up by looking right to make it a draw. Well, by the time he looks left, he's lucky that David Wingate doesn't just walk into the end zone with it. And Mikulski immediately over there. He has no idea that Roman Emby just got dropped for a 7-yard loss. This backside angle is even worse. Mikulski immediately goes that way. Yep, over there. These 2 guys drop. Look at this gap here. There's no way that Fernando did not see that gap and tell his O-line. He has to see the issue there and tell Mikulski, hey, stay at your post. These guys are coming. Let's watch these guys right here. Look at them. It parted like the sea. Nobody had a chance to block those guys. And like I said, they're lucky that Hemby didn't just give the ball to the defense there. Now, let's watch an awesome play here by Mike Shanahan. This is one of those plays where it's just like, hey, we saw something on film, and it worked. The issue, man coverage. They're going to bring Kalen Black into man coverage, and they're going to know it by this guy coming across. So, manned up here, man here, and then safeties in cover 2. So, the entire middle of the field is open because D-line on the outside, D-line on the outside, outside of the hip and outside of the hip. Pat Coogan, his only job here is put a hand on each guy, make sure they're going their own right way, and then get up ahead. Indiana didn't even need Pat Coogan in this play. You'll see Fernando just kind of turns his shoulder for a second, walks into the end zone. Look, motion, indicate man coverage. Everybody gets outside of the lane. And then Pat Coogan, Fernando could have jumped on his back and walked into the end zone with him. So look at this. This is just purely a mistake on film from Maryland, not realizing that Indiana could expose this. Shanahan does. Look, motion. Look how big of a gap it is. None of these four guys have any idea until Fernando's basically in the end zone that play was not going to work. That's what Mike Shanahan's done all season. He's found issues for other teams on film, and then he's exploited them. Guys, let's go back. Not necessarily a slam dunk on some of those plays, but Fernando Mendoza was able to kind of get his wits back about him. And when you have Mike Shanahan as your offensive coordinator, it's not difficult to do so.
Let's give it up for Thomas Crow breaking down the film right there. There we go, Thomas. No, that Fernando Mendoza rushing touchdown, that was just a layup. I mean, Pat Coogan, he could have just kept running for another 90 yards. It was so impressive. Way to break down the film right there. We got a great segment coming up, though. If the college football playoff bracket is officially set, the first initial rankings are out. We're going to have a great discourse. But before that, our very own Brooks White, he went broader than the Big Ten this time. It's the CFP Breakdown, brought to you by Brooks White.
The Buckeyes have a target on their back as the reigning national champions and number one team in the country. However, this year their quarterback Julian Sayin is showing Heisman-level promise. He's already thrown for over 2,100 yards with 23 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions, and last week they picked up a big-time win over Penn State, dominating both the pass and the run game 38-14. This week, the Buckeyes head to Purdue. Next up, Indiana and their breakout signal caller, Fernando Mendoza, is now firmly in the Heisman mix. This season, he's thrown for over 2,100 yards with 25 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. The Hoosiers' best victory was on the road at Oregon, 30-20. This week, the Hoosiers go on the road to Happy Valley to play at Penn State for a chance to cement themselves among the playoff elite. Now to the SEC, where the Texas A&M Aggies are making noise with their quarterback, Marcel Reed, in the Heisman conversation. He currently has nearly 2,000 passing yards with 17 total touchdowns, and their best win might have came just a couple weeks ago against LSU. Lastly, we look at Alabama and their sophomore quarterback, Ty Simpson. He's thrown for over 2,100 yards this season with 20 touchdowns and only 1 interception. Their signature win was taking down the Georgia Bulldogs in hostile territory, showing that they can perform under pressure. This week, the Crimson Tide host LSU. The Tide need a dominant showing to make a case for them being in the top 4.
It's November, which means the craziness of college football is officially here. The initial college football rankings came out on Tuesday. Some surprises, some no surprises. You can see the top 4 kind of mirror what the AP poll was doing. You see a mix of SEC schools from 3 to 6. Oregon was really a surprise for me, and that's where I'm going to ask you my first question about the initial rankings that come out is, was Oregon ranked too low? I mean, their lone loss is Indiana. Yes, they really haven't played. Their wins aren't super quality on the year so far, but they still have a tough schedule ahead of them. And again, their lone loss against the number 2 team in the country, Graham.
Yeah, it's tough. You think about who's ahead of them: Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, some of those teams that have also, had some interesting games this season, right? Alabama with 1 loss, Georgia with a loss to Alabama, and then Ole Miss with a loss to Georgia as well. It's just it's a melting pot. There's so much overlap when it comes to these SEC teams. But my initial reaction was the same, Joe. I also thought that it was a little bit low because, sure, they beat Penn State, who is now, people saying not a good team. We'll get into that. Yeah. But at the time, that was a huge win going into the whiteout on the road, double overtime, and losing to Indiana, the number 2 ranked team. I don't think that should punish you that much. I mean,
it is. And I think it just goes to show maybe what the committee prioritizes. I honestly thought once we saw Oregon right there at number 9, where was Indiana? Would they put them below Texas A&M just because of a moment like that? That was very interesting. Other thing is Notre Dame. I mean, they're comfortably in. And I think what Tuesday's shown is that Notre Dame, all they have to do is win out, and they're going to back-to-back CFPs. East.
Well, they didn't even really have to do anything last week. Georgia Tech losing, and then, all the talk at the beginning of the year was Miami beat Notre Dame. Maybe Miami's back. Well, guys, it's November 6th, and Miami's funeral service now. They are not back. But that makes it easier on Notre Dame, right? They didn't even have to do anything last week. 2 teams ahead of them drop. They rise up to 10, and Marcus Freeman and his team look to get back to the playoff, and the committee has shown that they're willing to do it if they win out.
I mean, let's say on the ACC, this is a long ball conference that looks like, obviously all the power conferences get their automatic bid, but right now Virginia is technically in at that 11th spot, but they're ranked 14th in the CFP rankings. It's almost like they're stealing a spot, Graham.
Yeah, a little bit. You hate to say it, but like a little bit. And it's just come down to it feels like these teams kind of beating themselves a little bit. It's really tough with Georgia Tech, Louisville, Virginia. They've had good games. They've looked really good, but at the end of the day, it's so hard to take a 1-2 loss ACC team over a 1 or 2 loss SEC Big Ten team. It's just such a tough position to be in if you're one of those.
Now, some major news happened today with Memphis. Ryan Silverfield, the current head coach, a hot candidate for really all of these vacancies, is going to be taking the Arkansas job, but he's going to stay with Memphis and wait out the remainder of the season. Thomas, Memphis right now is looking like the strong team. They are currently in, by the bracketology, in the college football playoff. If they win the American, they are likely solidified at that 12 spot. That's crazy. How much pressure is on him? How are the players reacting? What is a situation like that? Has that ever happened?
Joe, I don't know how you operate this as a coach, as an athletic department. How do you talk to your players about this, right? You're 8-1. You have a chance to go to the college football playoff, and a coach comes in towards the end of the season. It's still a regular season. They still have hard games they got to go win. And your coach comes in and says, guys, I'm leaving you. And I'm not even going to, I'll stick around for the end of this, but I don't really care what happens. It's hard to convince your players to necessarily play hard for that guy. I'm not in the locker room. I've never been in a situation like this. I'm just a talking head saying my opinion. Doesn't really matter what I have to say. It's the transition of what college football has become, and I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing.
Now, I think with the way that the transfer portal operates, the players are probably going to be more linked to the coach than they are the school. So that's where something crazy. Sure. You've probably seen this entire Memphis roster repping red. And
we saw it here at Indiana.
Suey. Exactly. But Graham, I have to ask you, Memphis is 8-1 right now. Currently, maybe not the favorite, but they are projected to be in as a group of 5 representation in the college football playoff. What if the wheels fall off the wagon? They go 8-4. Is Arkansas just swinging and missing?
Oh gosh. it feels like it a little bit. That's such a tough position to be in if you're Arkansas. It's such a tough point, but it's a good one that you bring up. This is why I just, in general, I'm not a fan of, in this situation, hiring a coach before season's over. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it to the players in your locker room as the AD that's getting that head coach. You can't do it to the players on the other side who are losing a head coach and now have to make a decision as an 8-1 team fighting for that group of 5 spot. Okay, now they're thinking, do I transfer with my guy or do I stay here with Memphis? It's such a hard decision. I do not think that there could have been a worse choice than hiring a coach midseason.
And there have been teams that have gotten hot at the right time. Same Memphis gets hot and they get into the semifinal. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Just say it does, right? Hypothetically. Now you're in a really weird transfer portal window, right? You could have Memphis players who are playing in a game who would transfer the next day. That gets weird. I'm with you, Graham. I hate it.
It's a crazy world right now. We've had 10 weeks of college football. 11 FBS coaches have been fired, and 1 vacancy has been filled, kind of filled, or will be filled, I guess is a better way to put it. My last thing before you guys give your brackets, the projected brackets for the final season, it is about Vanderbilt. They're out pretty much. That was a bad loss to Texas, and Texas looks like they might be back. Maybe.
This is crazy. I did not expect to be in this situation.
Look
Texas
at Ryan Wing go down the sideline. First play of the game?
That was unbelievable. After that play, Texas really didn't slip up until the very last quarter, until the end of that 4th quarter. Vanderbilt brought it close, but Diego Pavia could only do so much, and he really couldn't get it back there. Texas and Arch Manning are rolling to they're getting it done. They're finding some momentum. Could be, you mentioned teams getting hot at the right time, Thomas. This could be one of those teams, but I do think Vanderbilt is.
I think Two Turnt might have bit off too much to chew there. That onside kick was pretty close, though. No, there is something to be said about a team getting hot. Hey, this is the number one team in the nation going into the year.
Yeah.
You have Arch Manning, who coming off that concussion, man, he's been good.
Yeah.
He's been very good. He's been intense. There's a different energy in that building. A lot of guys like Sark. Sark's an awesome play caller. Watch out for Texas, man. If this team gets to the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to see it go in once, right? Like hitting a free throw, just let it go down, hit it once, and then they all start rolling for you. That's how I feel about Texas.
I did lie. I have one more thing before you get your bracket.
Keep it going, Joe.
Joey Galloway on the initial rankings show said that Texas A&M has the best road win in the country. They beat Notre Dame, currently sitting. Notre Dame is the 10th team in the CFP rankings. Indiana beat number 9 Oregon. So, gentlemen, I'll let you discourse. Who has the best road win of the season?
Indiana.
Is it? Can you even? It's 10 versus
Indiana.
9. The rankings are clearly there. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
anyways,
is that on ESPN?
It was. It was.
Can't even get it on YouTube TV anymore.
We've changed it up. So Graham and Thomas have
watch Monday Night
updated
Football.
their final CFP rankings that they think their predictive rankings for how the year will end and how things will shape up. So Graham, let's get it rolling. Let's check out the 12 teams you think are making the college football playoff.
All right. I've got Ohio State at 1. I think that's pretty obvious. I've got Indiana at 2. Thomas, I know you don't like that. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get into it. A&M at 3 for reasons tied to Indiana. Alabama 4. Georgia at 5. Ole Miss 6. Oregon at 7. Got them a little bit higher than that 9 spot, but we'll see how the season ends for the Ducks. Texas Tech at 8, right ahead of BYU. Then Notre Dame, who we're talking about, is really on a hot streak. Then I've got Louisville. Give me the Cardinals at 11.
I like it.
And then Memphis for that group of 5 team.
Louisville's playing some good ball. Now, during this segment, I am going to be acting judge. I should have brought a gavel. That would have been perfect. Thomas, let's get your rankings going.
Yeah, I'm going to keep Ohio State at my number 1 seed. I still think Indiana has a chance at him come Lucas Oil. I have Texas A&M, the winner of my SEC, at 2. Indiana, the runner-up, and Alabama, the runner-up of the SEC, at the 3 and 4. Oregon, I just think they only have one bad loss in the year. It's the best loss in the country, if you will. Ole Miss at 6 with that loss to Georgia. Not being in the SEC title game kind of benefits them there. BYU and Texas Tech, we'll talk about it. You and I are flipped on them, but somewhat similar results. I still have Georgia Tech getting in. I think they beat Georgia. Notre Dame, just because of the rise up of Miami leaving. I have Memphis at 12, Georgia at 11. And Georgia at 11 just because they lost to Alabama. And I also have them losing Georgia Tech, but still 2 good enough losses to get in.
All right, let's take a look at the side-by-side. Fellas, here are the first 6 teams that you had the same. Obviously, the green, the red, different. Let's discourse. Who would like to start first?
Give me your explanation of that.
Indiana so 2 as a Big Ten loser, right?
As a Big Ten loser, that's right. So last week I had Indiana and A&M flipped, where I had A&M 2, Indiana 3. But then I started thinking, you know what I think is going to happen?
I like when you think.
I know you do. I think that in a couple weeks, it might only be 1 or 2 at this point, I think A&M loses at home to South Carolina. Or excuse me. Yes, yeah, South Carolina. I think the Gamecocks beat Texas A&M because what we have seen, what I've come to know about Texas A&M as a football fan is you get to a big part of the year and they choke. Something happens. I think that happens again. South Carolina took it to Alabama a little bit at home. That was a close game the entire way through. I think what happens, obviously they get that loss. They then rally, get a little Ohio State, Michigan action last year. A&M wins the SEC championship. However, that loss against South Carolina at home is so bad that Indiana goes up ahead of them in second. Indiana keeps it close with Ohio State and Lucas Oil, and A&M is third.
I'm surprised by that because the Missouri on the road, Texas on the road, and you have them losing at home to Scar?
Well, so I originally that was originally going to be my broader take.
Are you a Lenore Sellers truther?
Kind of.
I'll run him through it. The logic, yes, does make sense.
Sure.
Having them lose to South Carolina at home and not one of the other 2 on the road, I'm not buying it. I don't get it.
So my original,
it feels like a stretch.
That's fair. When I originally looked at this, I was like, okay, I think they're going to lose one of those 3 games. But then I was like, okay, let's take this one step further. I think that it's very likely that it's one of the other two teams that beat them. I don't think that would be enough for them to drop below Indiana in the ranking.
I'd agree.
Which is why I have them losing that game and Indiana jumps. So just a little bold prediction for you to get the segment started, Thomas.
Something I'm curious for both of you. You picked different ACC winners, but neither of them were Virginia, an undefeated team in ACC play. The lone undefeated team in ACC play. Why Georgia Tech? Why Louisville? Let's start Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, for me, it's Haynes King. I still think that him and Brett Key can get it figured out in Georgia, and I think they have a great chance at home to take down a team in Georgia that I think they're down to one of their 9 lives left. They did it. They've done it so many times this year where they get to the fourth quarter and it's like, oh, well, Georgia's done for, and then they somehow find a way. I am not a Gunnar Stockton truther. I think Georgia falls in that game to Georgia Tech, and then Georgia Tech takes down Virginia in the title.
You see, still have Georgia in right there. And Graham, with Louisville, the way they've been playing, their lone loss is to Virginia. They have a tiebreaker over Pitt. Georgia Tech has a bad, or quote unquote, bad loss to NC State. So it seems like Louisville's trending up if they continue to win. They're a fun team. Jeff Brom has taken that program over, and he's got them playing well.
Yeah, he does. Louisville's a really, really fun team. And I think exactly what you said, Joe, that was my thought process is Georgia Tech, 1 loss to NC State. I think they lose to Georgia. I think it's going to be really close, but the Bulldogs, they just find a way to win, man. They just find a way to win. That's what good teams do. I think they're going to do it, even though that one is on the road. And so then that leaves the ACC championship game to Virginia and to Louisville in my book. In that case, it's hard to beat a good team twice. That's going to be a theme for my bracket tonight. It's hard to beat a good team twice. I don't think Virginia can beat Louisville twice. Louisville's ACC championships, they get in. Doesn't
matter what ends up happening there. I think I can confidently say I don't think Jeff Brom's going to be Louisville Cardinal much longer. That guy, he's firing up in the coaching search, and I know it's his alma mater, but I think he has a chance to go somewhere high level.
I know it was the Big Ten East and West days, but he took Purdue to a Big Ten championship. Yes, they did get blanked by Michigan. That's besides the point, though. They still had a great season, beat Ohio State that year. Last question about your various brackets is in the Big 12. Both you had BYU and Texas Tech in different spots. Just what's going in, because that's a huge matchup out in Lubbock this weekend. Texas Tech hosting BYU. I mean, where do you see those teams kind of falling into place?
Yeah, so I've got Texas Tech at 8, BYU at 9. I think you had it switched where you'd BYU right ahead of Texas Tech. My thought process is they're playing this weekend. I think Texas Tech, their defense is so good. I think they just blow BYU out of the water. Home game, I think Texas Tech gets it done. But BYU, I think, still gets into that Big 12 conference championship game. And then you got an interesting situation where it could be those two again. My thought is, again, I said it was going to be my theme, hard to beat a good team twice. I think BYU is going to play them really close. I think it's going to come down to that fourth quarter. And I think BYU wins. But my thought process is because Texas Tech beats them so badly the first time that the Red Raiders get the nod ahead of the Cougars.
See, that's where I can't agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Or if it is a blowout, not a big enough blowout for them to rank the Big 12 winner lower than the team that they beat in the Big 12 title, regardless of the outcome.
What point differential do you think it needs to be for that to happen? What would be your?
I mean,
it would have to be a 40+ point win and a less than a touchdown win in the Big 12 title game.
Graham showed an interesting argument with conference championships already, with having Indiana as the Big Ten loser over what would be Texas A&M as his SEC champion. We love talking hypotheticals. It's college football. College football is great. It's happy birthday college football. Today, Thursday, November 6th, marks the 156th anniversary since the first ever college football game. This is a great scoreline, by the way. Rutgers beat Princeton 6-4. I've seen soccer games with higher scoring than that. That's going to wrap up our CFP bracketology, though. It's time to preview Indiana's 10th game of the season. They're out in Happy Valley taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions at big noon kickoff, noon game on Fox. And our very own Oliver Carr has a preview on Penn State.
Indiana football has never won in Happy Valley, with the Penn State Nittany Lions claiming victory in all 13 times they've played at Beaver Stadium. But these are not the Hoosiers of old, and neither are these Nittany Lions, as they enter with a record of 3-5, their worst through 8 games since the COVID-shortened 2020 season. Before that, 2004. Like the game against UCLA, Indiana faces a team who has recently fired their head coach, as Terry Smith took over for the recently fired James Franklin after their loss at home to Northwestern. One major change has been at signal caller, as senior quarterback Drew Aller has already been ruled out for the season, following an ankle injury sustained against Northwestern. Their new quarterback is redshirt freshman Ethan Grunkemeyer, who has been somewhat ineffective in his 2 starts since Aller's injury. He has a total of 238 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. With their passing game having regressed, Penn State has relied even further on what was already their calling card, their ground game. With a pair of All-American caliber backs, the Penn State ground game is led by Katron Allen, who has a score in every game this season. So while that ground game is reminiscent of typical, excellent Penn State teams, if there is one part of their game that has really taken a step back this season, is their defense. Ranking 89th nationally against the run, look for IU running backs Roman Hemby and K'Wan Black to try to silence the crowd at Beaver Stadium. Still, this game is not going to be an easy win for the Hoosiers, with 100,000 plus fans injecting life into a talented roster full of excellent football players. Players who are hungry to try to right the ship and sink the Hoosiers. For Crimson Kickoff, I'm Oliver Carr.
It just seems like the Lion is not sleeping very well in the jungle when you're talking about Penn State. They're 3-5 on the season. They're riding a 5-game losing streak, and they made a coaching change. They're the second team that Indiana's playing that an interim will be in place. Terry Smith taking over for the fired James Franklin after that 3-3 start in, the 3-game skid. The Oregon, UCLA, the Northwestern. Terry Smith is 0-2 right now. Drew Aller suffering that season-ending broken ankle against Northwestern. It's just beat after beat for this team, yet they still are ranked 22nd according to ESPN's FBI calculator. And Thomas, to lose a coach, to fill in as an interim, it's a lot of weight. Terry Smith is a Penn State guy, but there's just so much that happens because James Franklin is the guy that recruited the 75-plus guys to play for Penn State.
Yeah, I heard Max Brown talk about this. He's now an analyst, but played quarterback at USC and Pitt. He played for 4 years, had 5 coaches. So he has a great perspective on this, right, guys? First thing he talked about was he called it whiplash. You're already down. Obviously, you've had some losses or something, or else your coach wouldn't get fired. But now that you're on the ground, you just reared back and hit your head too. You got a concussion. That's what it is, losing a coach, right? It's painful. It sucks. This is a guy who, for some of these guys, has become a father figure to them. Yeah. You see him every day, hours per day. Now you don't see him anymore. It's almost like a tough breakup. And then the other thing that he talked about is, why do you fire a coach midseason? Well, sometimes when you lose the fan base and they're already gone, you just have to say, you know what, if we can get some sort of spark of momentum these last couple games, might be a chance to keep recruits and some of the players who are here.
You have to imagine there was some pressure outside too with boosters, donors, that once the losses happened, once that Oregon loss, that was a crushing double overtime loss. And at the time, Penn State was number 3 in the country. That was under 40 days ago, Thomas. Let's look at some of what Penn State's done this season with Ethan Grunkemeyer filling in for Drew Aller, the injured Drew Aller. Graham, he's a redshirt freshman from Ohio, and he's kind of struggled since taking the reins.
Yeah, he has. Number 7 quarterback in the 2024 class, really highly touted guy coming out of high school, but it's been a really hard jump. You think about the teams that he's faced in his first 3 collegiate games. Iowa, Ohio State, some really, really daunting challenges. Got Indiana coming up. It's been a struggle for him. He's been pressured a lot on his dropbacks. About a third of his dropbacks have been pressured, and he's completed about 50% of them. So he's really, really struggled when that pressure gets through. Interestingly, he's not as bad on a full-out blitz. He's done better in that scenario, but it's when the defensive line slowly leaks through, that's when he struggles. But he's a young guy, and coming in at this point of the season is so tough.
It's tough, and you can see this team is kind of the motivation is dwindling. You have all these losses piling up. Outside of the Ohio State 38-14 loss, the 4 other losses are by a combined 13 points. 2 1-point losses, that 6-point overtime loss to Oregon. It's so close, and it plays away from having a great season or a healthy Drew Aller from this team having all that potential. And that's the thing. This team still had sky-high potential, a lot of great players in that running back room, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. They are great. Singleton's not having a great year, but Katron Allen is still putting up some big numbers and could potentially be a threat for Indiana.
Yeah, they're just shy combined of the 1,000 rush yards. They combined for 17 touchdowns. Guys, losing Drew Aller and losing James Franklin is tough on anybody, but these 2 running backs have responded well. They're still weapons as they were coming into the season.
Now, for Indiana playing Penn State, this is meeting number 28. Indiana has only won 2 times against the Nittany Lions, and they have never won out in Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley. The Hoosiers look to make a lot of history. Again, a 10-win season, a 10-0 start for back-to-back years. The transcending that Kurt Cignetti has done to this Indiana program continues to be sky high, and also a win in a place they've never done. That would just be huge. Yes, it's a dwindling Penn State team, but just for all the IU football heads that have been watching this team for 30, 40 years, I mean, this was a big moment.
Yeah, it'd be the cherry on top, right? I mean, it's already been a great season for Indiana fans, but that would really just kind of put it over the edge, getting that win and really being able to go into that Big Ten championship game on the same level as Ohio State. I mean, that is what Indiana fans are dreaming of, but they've already made history, Joe. Real quick, they're 13.5-point favorites. First time they have been ever favored in a matchup against Penn State.
Guys, I think we haven't done this in a while. I think we just need to slow down, hit pause for a second, and understand the gravity of what we're watching here at Indiana. Indiana has a chance to go to Penn State, a team who was ranked top 5 in the nation starting this season, go get their first ever win at Penn State, advance to 10-0, and be on a collision course with the Ohio State Buckeyes in Lucas Oil Stadium in a game that there will be national analysts and national writers who favor Indiana in that game. Guys, this is historic, the turnaround that Kurt Cignetti has done here. And I think occasionally you just got to turn and wait a second and look at what's going on.
It's been mentioned that it's one of the best turnarounds in the history of college football. It's hard to find something that is better in the history of sports in the terms of this turnaround. Before we head out, our very own Mike Badrov did a story on another Bloomington local restaurant with Mother Bears and their deal with wide receiver for Indiana, Elijah Surratt, on his sriracha sauce and sriracha pizza. Let's take a look.
All right, we are here. We have the beautiful sriracha sauce pizza in front of us. We have the sriracha sauce and our awesome breadsticks. Before we dig in, guys, we got a shout out Ray and our awesome waitress Wendy and the whole Mother Brewers crew for having us here tonight. So, Graham, I guess you get first slice there. I'll give you up the breadsticks.
Yeah, let's do the breadsticks.
Gotta get a...
Oh.
All right. Oh, thank you. Do you want me to give you one, Tom? I can just...
Should first be breadstick dunk into the sauce? Yeah. Or should we do pizza first? Do we try sauce just straight up first?
I think we got to try the sauce.
Thank you, sir.
I got you.
Yeah, look at that.
Sauce straight up first?
Sauce straight up, yeah.
All right.
Oh, it's thicker than it seems.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's crazy.
Oh, wow, it is.
All right, cheers, boys.
Yeah. Cheers our sticks.
Mmm. It's good.
I'm a sucker for sriracha.
It's got a kick.
That's good.
It does have a kick.
Yeah.
It does have a kick.
It does have a kick. That is hot.
You feel like you can tell me anything right now?
Tell you anything.
Like hot ones. Oh.
That is hot though. I'll give you
go
credit.
back in. Honestly, that's good.
Go. I'm done here. All right, as you can see, we absolutely destroyed the pizza, killed the breadsticks, killed the sauce. Shout out to Mother Bears, to Ray, to Wendy, for everybody here who set this up. Awesome letting us be here. Graham loved it. Joe loved it. I know I loved it. So once again, come check out the Sriracha pizza here at Mother Bears on 3rd Street.
Huge thanks to Mike Badroff for setting that up, as well as Ray and Wendy over at Mother Bears. Man, that pizza was pretty good. That was a good pizza. I very much enjoyed that. But that is going to wrap up another episode of Crimson Kickoff. Indiana heading out to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. Noon kickoff, big noon kickoff will be there as well. Gus Johnson on the call. You know, he's always got some fire and some crazy things.
Barbecue back there.
Barbecue back there. You didn't invite me. But that's going to wrap it up. For Graham Nash, Thomas Crow, our entire production crew, I'm Joe Cronin saying so long, and we'll see you next week.
Cooper got open and caught it. Touchdown, Indiana.
Going up the middle is Omar Cooper, and he'll walk into the end zone.
Pump fake. Complete at the 47. Surratt with no one to beat.